staff, I think this is one of those that would be a good example, especially since our engineers already signed off on stormwater. So, do you guys have any questions?
Trying to figure this out.
Okay.
It's basically widening the driveway, is that correct?
Yeah, so picture a driveway and then one side stalls and then the other side's just lane. Now they're expanding it so both sides are going to have parking. And it was obviously thought about in 1995, so you can see that on the original. And I think, hang on. Here you go. This is a little bit better rendition, and you can see where those new parking spaces are. Does that help? So it's the colored spaces up there.
And where is the landscaping plan?
Do you know where the landscaping plan is?
I wasn't requested for landscape plan, it's been added.
Okay.
We got the landscape, but it was all landscape at the time with the anticipation of we're done. So we just basically got to cut the side off there and put the basement. We'll have to do some landscape plan around. It's planned that way, and at the time we speculated on having much extra office.
Oh, there you go. Now you're on.
Okay, I had my finger on it. But Dan Harkins is my name. I own the building, and I built that in '95. And from scratch, we were the only party in the building at the time, my businesses. And now it's grown. We're about 75 to 80% full there. We need more parking spaces. There's a mental health clinic going in there, family mental health clinic going in there, opening. They just opened up actually May 1st. So we need to get the parking there. There was 22 parking stalls, and we're adding 24, which is just less than the 4,000 square feet that triggers the stormwater management requirements. And this was grandfathered in because it was before they passed the stormwater management requirements.
I did attach the letter from Mark at Strand regarding stormwater.
And they said that.
They felt comfortable with it.
Well, until I see an actual landscaping plan for this, I don't see this moving forward.
Okay. All right.
Well, I think if you go out and look at it, it already is all landscape.
That's not the point. The point is that for the number of stalls, if it's still meeting the number of trees that are necessary, is it going to meet the number of points that are necessary with the new stalls that are added? I don't know that.
This is already
So I
grandfathered in
can't-
under the law, and I shouldn't have any requirements other than.
Your requirements are going to be what the commission eventually approves. What that is, I don't know. But then again, I'm not going to approve something that I don't see all the plans for.
Well, ultimately, this is going to be done, okay? And I will submit a
Ultimately,
plan.
maybe getting done.
I will submit a plan. Just don't hold it up. I have people that are trying to start a new business in there. I need his parking stalls, and I don't want to spend a couple months waiting for somebody to approve something when it's already, you know it's going to be landscaped and you know it's going to be paved. So just approve it. Be done with it.
Well, this is what we could do too, if you want, is that you could start working on, and if the commission's okay with it, get us landscaping plans. You could start working on it, and we can hold occupancy on this area until we have the landscaping plans approved.
Why don't you approve it, subject to me submitting the plan for your review, and that'll be the end of it.
What do you feel comfortable with?
Like I said, I need to see something before I can approve it.
Okay.
If that sounds like a reasonable way to proceed.
I request a vote on it. No.
Okay.
Excuse me, I didn't hear what you said.
I request a vote on this now.
So it looks like, yeah, Strand has said it's okay as it is.
No.
So, this becomes a procedural thing, but should we do a roll call vote?
Well, are we?
I think we need to, I mean, I agree that we need to know what's gonna be going with the landscaping, just to make sure that we've got it in compliance with everything in the city now, and I do get the grandfathered piece of this. I don't know, I would feel comfortable with going forward with a landscape plan having to get done. And I think it has to be, you know, I don't know if we see it, if they see it, you know, something that's in compliance, like Tom said, with the number of trees and things like that that are stipulated.
We have a point system, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you can make sure that it's in compliance now with the point system, I don't see any reason we hold up the actual project.
So,
I apologize, I haven't reviewed this one. This was done by our interim director, so I'm
That's
not as
fine.
familiar with this.
I just
So-
think it's a good point that going forward, I mean, I get both sides here. Project going forward, try to bring in new businesses, they need parking, I agree. But we also need to, we've established a point system, you know, for landscaping to keep Stoughton looking
No,
good.
there's all kinds of trees on the lot, too many. I had hired a landscape architect, and they did everything they could possibly do to that land. I don't know if you could plant any more trees and have any parking spaces left. You can drive out and
Okay.
look at it. But it all complied at the
And you
time,
may
it's
be-
grandfathered in. I don't think those requirements apply to this job.
And I think you may very well be in compliance. We just have to check that out with what you've got in
Well, that's
against
why
the
I should
rules.
submit one, or 2 or 3, whatever you want. But I think you should prove it's subject to me submitting that, then I will get them done right away. and-
Okay.
And give it, signed to somebody to,
so how about if we, would it be acceptable if we go with planning director's idea of the approved, sorry. If we go with the planning director's suggestion that, we, yeah, we hold occupancy until we see a submitted,
okay.
That means he can move forward with that.
a submitted landscaping plan that meets with,
Okay, I have to
what
get a
it's supposed
permit
to meet
for
to,
it. I
if
have to
that
get a
sounds
permit for
okay.
it, so I'll
so
submit
that
it.
won't hold you up starting work.
Right, I'll submit it and
Okay.
and I have to get the permit, and it'll be set then when they approve
Yeah.
the plan. Okay?
Okay.
That way it moves along and it doesn't waste another month or 2.
Yeah.
Because it'll be fall before I get the parking done, and it's not a good deal
Yep.
for everybody. Okay?
Okay.
I appreciate it, thank you.
You bet. So let's move forward with that. Is the motion, or do we have to vote on a motion, or do we, I don't know where we're at.
So I'm suggesting that the motion on the table be approval with the understanding that a landscape plan has to be provided prior to occupancy of the space.
Okay.
Needs to be submitted and approved, yeah.
Yeah, and I will make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Okay, or any opposed? None opposed? All right. Very good. So our next item is, let me bounce around here for a second. We are going to the site implementation plan and certified survey map for 211 South Water Street. And,
Okay.
okay,
I'm gonna go ahead and speak first, just so that I can explain how I wrote out this planner's report, so you guys can understand it. So, there's 2 separate issues you guys are gonna be looking at. A is the certified survey map, so that's 1 vote, and B is the approval of the SIP. So, overview of the project at 211 South Water Street. The proposal project is for a general plan development to allow the existing building at 211 South Water Street to be converted into the 18 units located in the downtown area. So the first one is the certified survey map. There's a proposed certified survey map for the project that will correct an issue on the existing lot line. I would consider this a lot line adjustment / sale between adjoining landowners. Our CSM process is not super clear in our stuff, but my history with dealing with CSMs, that's what I would consider this. So just more of an FYI, and it has to be a CSM. So if you guys look, you can see here, I try to color code everything. So the top one on this project right here is the current property lines, lot line 1 and lot line 2. And just so you guys understand, is normally if it's under 35 acres or less, it needs to be included in the CSM. Almost all of them that we're going to see in the city are going to be included. So like the parent parcel. In this case, I think there was originally, like, you can see the -3 lot lines. This will actually be clearing up that area over like where the parking lot currently is. And yeah, and then so the proposal, you can see the shift just to the, like, if you look at the building, just that shift to the north. I think it's like, what, 5 feet? And you guys have seen this at a previous, actually, I think it was my very first plan board meeting here. Yeah, yep. Yep, so they were asking what direction to go with this, and that this was the direction that you guys had given them during that meeting, which was my first meeting.
So if I can ask a question at this point, will this then encompass this expansion of that 5 feet? Will that then include the, I don't know, whatever we're referring to that as, that sidewalk or that piece of concrete
Yeah,
that's
it's like,
just to the north of the building?
yeah, and I think that there was, if I'm remembering correctly, and just looking at this, there was like the building was slightly over the lot line as well, so this is gonna be fixing a lot of that, so.
Okay.
So my recommendations for the CSM are as follows, and I'm gonna paraphrase some of this. Are you guys okay with that? So 1 and 2 is basically you have to meet state standards for a CSM. Like, it has to be done by a certified surveyor, and then number 2 is it has to follow the state requirements of that. Number 3, and I wanted to reiterate this one, existing easement should be shown and proposed utility easement should be placed on the lot, mainly because we know that there's that weird cluster in the back of utilities, and we want to make sure those are being shown and documented at this time so that that doesn't end up becoming a problem. And number 4 is failure to record the CSM within 1 year of the approval at the city council will result in it being voided. So it needs to be there. That's pretty normal. There's a timeline on stuff, so somebody doesn't come back 15 years from now and try to record a CSM that, you know, should have been recorded within a year. Any other conditions identified by city staff or plan commission. Now we can do this 2 ways. You guys can vote on the CSM now, or you can hold off until I'm finished, and then we can vote on it as one whole or 2 separate. It's kind of whatever you guys feel more comfortable with. So, do you want me to go ahead and start talking about the SIP? Okay.
You guys good with that? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Okay. Okay, so the following was granted through a rezone of the property from CB Central Business to GDP Plan Development. And just more of an FYI, on this planner's report at the bottom, you can see a timeline of everything that when you looked at it and what was approved during that timeline on the planner's report. So that's just, you know, it helps to just as a reference point. The following were the things that were granted for the exemption: allowance of residential apartments on the principal land use and allowance of residential apartments on the first floor within 25 feet of the building frontage. And then just a reminder that per the CB Central Business, there are no parking and landscaping requirements in the downtown Central Business District, so just more of an FYI. I went ahead and put park fees on there just so they were documented. The SIP planner recommendations, staff's recommending the following conditions subject to approval. You guys, they have to file the CSM first. We need that corrected so that then they can begin the work. We don't want work to begin and then the CSM not be filed or something along those lines happen. So that needs to happen first. Part of the change with the circulation in the parking area, there needs to be a trash enclosure with agreement should be in place prior to occupancy of the building. That really needs to be worked out with John's Disposal in addition to the city, and ideally some of the other local landlords around there that might need the trash enclosure. But I think that is a bigger thing, and I think that's why I'm asking for that as a condition on this. Each unit needs to meet the minimum space, use, and location requirements of our planning order. I actually referenced it. It's like it needs so many square feet of livable space, that kind of stuff. It's just a reminder on there. This is a contributing to the downtown design overlay district and will need the COA approval. And then number 5 and 6. Number 5 is approval by engineering, building inspector, fire inspector, and any other city departments, any other conditions by staff or plan commission. So those are my 2, and the applicant is here.
Okay.
So,
Alder Majewski, you have a question?
what happened to the parking?
The parking is not a requirement for zoning.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm asking the question anyway.
Well, I don't really have an answer for you on that because I want to be very clear that this is, in this particular development, we don't have any jurisdiction to require parking. And so,
It's not that we're requiring parking, they're requesting city property to be used for their parking on a rental basis, and I wanted to know what happened with that agreement and where
Right.
things are at.
but I don't know that this body has that jurisdiction in any capacity. I don't know what's going on with the parking. I purposely tried to stay out of the parking requirements, and this is why, is because per that zoning district, we cannot turn down this development regardless of parking, because that's not a minimum requirement for the zoning district. And so I think that we want to keep that as clear as possible, because if that's what we decide to not approve, they're 2 separate issues. Does that make sense? So in other words, like if this was in one of the other, like residential zoning districts, one of the other residential zoning districts, and it has a minimum requirement of 2 parking stalls per building, we can absolutely require parking. But the underlying zoning district does not require minimum parking, and therefore we can't require minimum parking.
Okay.
So,
I have 2 things to add
Sure.
to that. First thing is tomorrow night, as you may have noticed if you've looked at the agenda for tomorrow night's city council meeting, it appears there's going to be some discussion of this particular parking question that you are asking about. And then my other, since we have the petitioners that are the requesters here, I'm wondering if you could enlighten us as to, because it's my understanding that part of the parking request was based on your financing or lenders, and if you can turn that on, and maybe if you have a thought to that.
Yeah, that's correct. The banks are essentially requiring some type of surety that there will be parking available for our tenants. Now I don't know how much you want me to get into.
I'm really nervous about this because we cannot deny this based on parking.
Can I just,
So that's why
I can
was
make a
like,
real
I
general
can't-
statement.
Yes,
We
there you go.
have provided multiple options now, one for dedicated parking and one without dedicated parking to be presented.
Okay.
So, is that fair?
That's fine. I'm sorry. I know that I know I'm
No.
being really but I want to make sure that it doesn't get confused in this, and that we don't have the jurisdiction. We could be
Yeah.
like, it would be nice to have parking, but we can't require it because it's not in
Yeah.
our zoning.
If it's not something that we can really consider for these specific particular applications, then it's not something we can consider for these particular applications.
Right.
But Duran.
Yeah, I do have a question though, because it is gonna be a really big impact to the city, and I do think that whether or not we have jurisdiction, we're gonna be looked at as being responsible as far as letting this go through. Let me say something,
Yeah.
okay? These lots that are city lots that your tenants would use, whether you buy them, rent them, whatever you do, okay? Those tenants are gonna be there more than 3 hours, and right now we have certain time limits, people aren't supposed to be there consistently 24 hours a month. Are we gonna start towing 36 cars every day? I mean, it is a problem in terms of, I can walk around the city when people are home at night, okay, and they're parked, residents are parked, and I don't see where 18 to 36 cars are gonna be parked outside of the city lot.
Again, I know,
I understand, but there
I
has
am
to
sorry
be-
I'm being a broken record on this, but we have to hold everyone in these districts to the same standards, right? And in this case, this particular district does not have like, we have no parking requirements, which I do understand, right? Because it's very rare to have parking requirements in a downtown district. I don't know that
Well, the problem is it's 18 units. Most of the rental in the downtown area is 2 and 3 units max.
Yeah.
Or I guess there's 5 in the one building, but so this was an outlier. I mean, we've gone ahead and let them not have commercial on that ground floor, which, you know, was part of it. We're going ahead and conceding land and all this kind of stuff. I mean, where does it become that we really look out for the citizens and for the people who are coming in to rent these apartments as well? Because, I mean, I'd hate to rent an apartment. You can park in the city lot, and then all of a sudden they come home and there's nowhere to park. So I get what you're saying.
Right.
Let's put it,
But I'm uncomfortable. I'll just put it that way.
let's put it a different way. Is the density for this development within the bounds of what we're looking for?
That's an interesting question, and I don't really know how to answer that, because what you guys approved during that SIP gave the higher density, and you allowed for the first floor residential within the first 24 feet. So that was what was discussed and approved at that, like, on the flexibility of this area prior to me being here, right? So I understand what you're saying,
Here.
but I think I've personally lived in an area that did not guarantee parking and had to park on the street 5 blocks away in downtown Kansas City. It's a pain in the ass, or sorry. It's a pain, but also, like, I signed a lease understanding that that was very potentially what would happen. And yeah.
That's the thing. If the banks are telling them that they need to have some surety about parking, that says to me that they're expecting the city to do something. And here we're being asked to go forward with this when we're blind as to what the city is going to do. Even if it is a different department,
Right.
we're not aware at this point.
We do not have the jurisdiction in this board, though, to require parking because our minimum requirements are being met in our zoning code.
Well, I will tell you right now, I feel like we need to table this until the council comes up with whatever proposal they're gonna come up with. That's how I feel. Whether
Yeah.
I have the authority to do that
I
or
know,
not,
we
that's how I
don't,
feel.
that's why I did not want to talk about parking, because we do not have the authority to talk about the
I
parking.
know you haven't been here, but
Yeah.
parking came up the very first time these people presented, and you know that, and it's been the top issue with this development the entire time. The other issues have gone through. We didn't mind your units, we didn't mind the commercial release, all those things, but we have always talked about how this parking is going to be addressed. So I get that maybe we didn't have authority, but this started before you were on board.
Sure.
And everyone, including the past people in your job, had concerns because of the city and how the parking situation would
Yeah,
happen.
and that's definitely been a topic of conversation
Yes.
with all of us here.
So
and
we
we've-
can't just drop it now because it's been
Right,
something
and
that's
it's
been in
based on the
top of
last
mind.
safety meeting, I definitely don't think it's being dropped. I think there'll probably be plenty of discussion about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But after that, we've presented multiple ideas to the city to try to get all parties on board, one of which is just not reducing any parking, that's already existing, which I think everyone would agree is a positive if the concern is actually a parking shortage. And that would appease the banks, just to know that the parking currently available will stay available.
But
So,
again,
here-
yeah, I know.
So,
Look,
I
I'm
find-
not trying to be combative, but I also, unfortunately, my background is planning, and I have seen the aftermath of some of the boards that I've worked with overreaching, and so that's why
Well,
that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to,
I find it reasonable to set this back to the next meeting until after we find out what the council decides when it comes to its parking issues.
Yep, go ahead.
The reason being, I'm getting lots and lots of mail from people who live in this district, in this zoning area, that have issues with this development. So, therefore, until we get better clarification from council on what they are deciding, I will support a, what do you call it these days?
A motion to table,
Not table,
But-
but to post.
Set
a
it back.
postponement.
No, it's to table. It's to table.
No, tabling and postponing are totally different.
Are they?
I would call it a tabling. It means that it doesn't have to be renoticed. We are saying we are tabling it at this meeting. But this is the problem that you're gonna run into, guys. And I'm warning you, I hate being on record with this stuff. If the council comes back and doesn't approve any of their parking, and you guys have tabled it, you still have the same problem.
We get that.
Okay,
We just
We-
want to know what
and-
the city is going, at this point, I think there's a huge parking issue downtown. And if we're going to be called upon to pretty much
Duran.
address, larger projects like 18 units, which you've got to admit is very different in Stoughton downtown. And, right. And, I personally probably wouldn't have gone along with that many units if they had said no parking was going to be, addressed, that it would stay the way it is in the city. I probably wouldn't have said yes to 18 units because I think that's going to have a really big impact. But I trusted that the city was going to move forward and come up with a plan to either rent or somehow, have some kind of specific plan.
okay.
So how about this, if this is something that we can do? If we table or postpone, and I'm not a procedure guy unfortunately, as well as I should be, because we could potentially, pending tomorrow night's discussions, whether there's going to be a resolution, I know there's going to be discussion tomorrow night, we could, and if time is of the essence type of situation, which I'm sure you guys would like to know things sooner than later, we could always call a special meeting, if that's possible, to address this one particular topic. That is a potential possibility, if time is of the essence, although preference would be to not do that.
Yeah, so there's two things. First of all, I would recommend reviewing and recommend approval of the CSM, which to me is separate from, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's the first one, and then that way it's done.
Well, let's just do that.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Then if you guys would like to table the second issue, with the understanding, I am sorry that I'm beating the dead
No,
horse
that's-
here.
No,
That's
know
helpful.
your position,
Yeah.
and your position is correct.
Yes.
And if that had been pushed initially, how many times have you been here?
Enough.
If that had been said to us, because the parking has always been the big issue. If that had been said, hey, guys, ultimately, this is going through no matter what, don't worry, you just need to do the building, would have been a different scenario. So I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
But I
thank you.
also understand the history of what's happened, and so does the applicant, so I'm
So
hoping we can work with it.
if we can approve the CSM component of this and kind of separate out the SIP component, however we need that to be worded.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the CSM.
That's that first.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. And any opposed? None opposed.
Okay. So with the second one, you're gonna look to table the SIP, which means that we don't have to renotice. It's been noticed. They don't have to come in and refill out applications. If you guys want to table it till they get something for tomorrow, that's fine. And then we can, if you want to set up a special meeting, we can also do that, okay?
We're just pushing this down the road. From what you're saying is that basically we don't have a choice.
We don't have the jurisdiction.
No, we don't have a choice. Because,
Well-
because we don't have the jurisdiction, you're saying we don't
Right.
have the jurisdiction.
The city
So no
might have
matter what
jurisdiction,
happens-
but yeah.
What the city decides, this will come back, and we will have, unless you can find something within this SIP that does not meet the requirements, it's gotta go through,
No, we're gonna end up back where we are right now.
square one.
Yeah, so, Jordan.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do we know then who has the jurisdiction, which committee does, or is that just the city in general when we keep talking about?
Yeah, so really what would need to come through is from the safety committee. It has to do the so, I'm sorry, how much
Oh, that's all
boring
right.
information do you want?
A lot, please.
But, okay, so essentially what happens is, I'm just gonna use a general, like, street, not even parking, let's just pretend, like, so, like, on your street, you have what would be like no parking between X and Y, or something like that, and it's tied to the ordinance, and that's how it's ticketed, essentially, just in general. So that here, those kind of on city municipal lots and in streets and all of that stuff actually goes through the safety committee here. So that's where it's going through, is the safety committee, and it's been there a couple of times, and I purposely have stayed very far away from it, because I'm like, I don't have jurisdiction on this stuff, and I don't want it to cloud our judgment from, you know what I mean, like, this is what our ordinance says, and you guys all know, and I've said this since probably my second day here, we are looking at and rewriting our zoning code. Like, we'll be talking about it later today. So that is something that I think we need to look at and start considering. But at this time, unfortunately, like, it needs to stay in the safety committee, and the safety committee is the one that needs to be making these decisions, and then it will go to council for review and approval, just like our stuff goes to council for review.
What decision could they make?
Well, again, purposely stayed out of it for a lot of these reasons, but one of the suggestions this is what I would suggest personally, is that I know that there's a lot of apprehension, but I think because I don't think this is going to be the first or the last of these proposals in the downtown area, and I think it's good for the downtown area, quite frankly. I think that we could use this as kind of a test pilot and give it a sunset clause to see how it works. If we are having problems, then we definitely need to come back to the board, but I don't know that we will. I don't know that we won't. Like, I know the downtown Janesville does this. They've been doing it since, I think it was like 1999 that they passed it, and they lease spaces. Again,
Are you talking about the city renting spots?
yes, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's what I've heard that they're going towards, is renting spaces. It's not like they're giving them parking spaces, but it's a rental for the spaces in the downtown area, and then freeing up more on-street parking. But I've been very at the periphery. I know that I've seen, obviously there's communities that do it. I parked in downtown Janesville, and I noticed the signs and then Googled it this weekend. Like, that's what I was doing. In previous cities I worked in, we had municipal lots that we rented out the spaces, and they had hanging tags. And, you know, everybody here knows I came from Whitewater, and there was a significant amount of people living in the downtown area there. Another thing that we did is we removed a lot of the, you know, side streets in downtown restrictions, and then on Main Street we had like 2-hour parking, because that's, you know, we want in and out of the businesses faster. And we're getting on such a tangent here. Like, that's why I was like, I don't know if we want to talk about it or not, but it really does need to come from the safety committee. It needs to be written down in black and white with like all of the regulations in place, and I have very much been on the periphery of it. And when I know these gentlemen called and they were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I should not be doing anything, because my decision here is from the planning standpoint, and we don't have minimum requirements here. And I know if I am involved and you guys are seeing me, it's going to get mucky. But, you know, I'm sorry. I know that's a long lesson that nobody. needed to
This
hear.
is, this is planning, and that's public safety, and that's in their wheelhouse. This particular development and parking situation is not, it's not in our wheelhouse. So, although it will be fodder for a lot of discussion tomorrow, I have a feeling. So,
Yeah.
there will be, and I will report back on it at our next Plan Commission meeting. Jordan?
So I make a motion then to approve the CSM and to, did we do the?
I think we did,
we
we
approved
did
the
that
CSM.
already.
So then I will make a motion to table the
SIP.
SIP, thank you. Table the SIP till after the Common Council meeting, to either then have a special meeting or till next Planning Commission meeting.
Second? Duran? That's a yes. Okay, Duran seconds.
Let me ask a question before we,
Ah,
one question before we vote.
yeah.
So, Director, in your opinion, right now, this development meets all our requirements?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the things that I listed, it's gonna need the COA.
Right.
You know, those kind of things, but, which is another
So-
board.
Yeah, so to your earlier question, we are gonna kind of end up back here, and this is sort of
Possibly.
spinning our wheels a little
Possibly.
bit, possibly gonna end up back here, depending on results of discussion tomorrow night
Depending on
and
the results
coming
of
up.
of the vote right now.
Yeah, but keep in mind,
too.
we'll end back here, and regardless if they approve it or deny it, we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're still gonna have to
Yeah.
improve it.
Yeah, and you're
we'll-
still gonna have to approve, I mean, you
So
can
why?
deny it for zoning reasons, but, yeah.
Well, and even with whatever the Safety Commission, the Public Safety Commission says, that still has to go through the Common Council also,
Well-
correct?
It's already gone through Safety Commission, and it's
Okay.
at the Common Council,
Yeah.
and it was like this weird neutral sending on to Common Council, from what I understand. Yeah,
And that's really what we're looking for too, is just guidance at this point, which is what we requested from the
Yeah.
Safety Commission, and why we've tried to put multiple options on the table to move it ahead.
So, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote on it and see where we're, and I'm hoping this, well, let's just vote on it and see where, and like I said, if necessary, we can always call a special meeting, depending, based on
Can I ask when the
But-
next council meeting, or the next planning commission meeting
the
is?
next plan commission meeting
1 month.
is a month
So it's
from
okay, 1 month.
Yeah,
today.
it's-
Okay,
Try and get you before that.
okay, yeah, that would be great, because if everything goes well, we're hopeful to get going
Yeah.
by July 1.
Yeah.
I
Apprehension.
really like you guys, but do you want to spend more time with me?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So far, so
As a matter of
good.
fact, I detected some apprehension on the, but,
I
you
am,
know.
I'm concerned, but I voiced it, and you guys know,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna not,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure everybody feels like they're heard. Everything, questions are answered, considerations are, everything is taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't jeopardize the project, which we
Yeah.
don't want to do, we don't want to stand in the way.
I
of
think that'll be
development because
tomorrow's
we need-
meeting.
Okay, so, yeah, it's,
We'll see.
You know,
this is interesting, so.
I just think that, like you said, safety just passed it through. And I'm not saying.
I was
that-
like, it doesn't sound like they were fun meetings, so.
Yeah, and that's, at some point, somebody has got to say, and I'm sure, like you said, some things in zoning and whatnot have to change, we realize that. Stoughton is a beautiful, small-town community which is growing. And somebody, whether it's the council, whether it's planning, whether it's safety, has to be willing to stick their neck out and say, if you're gonna put in 18 units, you have to have some kind of parking plan. They wanna have a parking plan, they're not the problem, okay?
Yeah, and
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
somebody has to say, okay, we approve you renting spaces, or we approve this, and it seems like nobody's willing to to make a decision, and that's more of what's, I
Well,
guess, getting,
And that's,
you
and that's
know.
not, and that's the reason that we should just vote on this today, because of the fact that it's not our decision to make. And no matter what happens, we will be right back here,
That's
making
okay.
that same decision.
That's okay.
and there has been, although this is again, a parking question, so I don't even know if we should really be discussing this
I
because
know.
we are the plan commission and we
Yes.
don't do parking because public safety does parking in this respect. Yes, but-
In the future, okay, I'm not
That's,
saying so much.
that's in the future, but right
As
now.
as an,
Don't
inf-
make it stink now, it's not gonna happen.
yeah, as an,
oh, sorry.
just as an
Sorry.
FYI, just for information, so that is why some people have discussed, or it has been discussed to have a parking study encompassing the city of Stoughton to see what needs are, what deficiencies are, what can potentially be done, but we don't, at this point, have the information. So,
Jill, can I reiterate what I think your concern might be, as I'm trying to learn the dynamics of all the councils in public safety and council? I think you might be saying they gotta stay separate, so from our perspective, everybody's perspective, what if tomorrow council it all gets approved? And then it's gotta come back to the planning commission and it's not approved. It almost looks like it's not approved because of the parking, which would be kind of what you're alluding to, is what I'm gathering.
Yes, so, again, I'm sorry I'm a broken record. We don't have any minimum requirements for parking in the downtown district, which is very normal for the record, guys. I know that sounds weird, but it is. Really, this does need to be an overall decision on, that is not this board, it's public safety, and then at the council level. Yeah, so yeah, it's been moved to council.
We've done that a couple times.
so if,
Yes,
yeah.
pass the buck.
if we approve this tonight, and so we're done with it,
Yes,
and then pending the discussion at council tomorrow, that's really gonna be,
so.
which is different from most of us, or half of us, or, so, because of the results of a different committee.
Right, and I think that's, again, I'm sorry, guys. I'm
No.
totally I feel like I'm speaking out of turn a lot here, and I apologize. I don't know these gentlemen's situation, and we're not gonna go there. But if they are dependent on parking for their project, and I don't know if they do or don't, and it's not this committee's decision, and then it doesn't go through, and they don't do it, like, we just approved it and it's done, and they might not have financing, so it might be a moot
Oh.
point. I don't know. So go ahead.
Jordan?
I'm understanding of where the director's coming from with this. I had a motion on the table. I'd like to rescind the motion and restart that over again.
Okay.
If that's,
Okay.
we can
Or
do
we
this.
could just vote on it and see where the votes lie, but, because you don't have to really vote for your own motion, actually.
Yeah, you know, but I'm not gonna make a motion and deny my own motion. I just think that'd be a little.
I have seen it happen before.
We've already had a couple votes. I've been doing well so far.
Guys, just put the
So,
motion.
Okay,
Not
I rescind the one motion. I'd like to remake a motion then to approve
Was
the.
there a second on the motion? If there is, you
there
can.
was, Duran
I'll
approved it.
rescind it. No,
It's
we're
okay.
gonna
Okay.
forward it.
That's
Okay, so
fine.
we're basically hitting undo.
Yeah.
Okay, we've undone.
We've undone. So I make a motion, we approve the
SIP.
The SIP.
SIP, thank you, and move this forward.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Abstain.
And one abstention, which is Bradford. Any opposed? We have none opposed. I guess I have to, no, I guess we have to vote. Did we vote? No, we have an abstention. I'm all
We're good.
confused. So I have to vote. I will say aye.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So we're done. We have approved it.
So the CSM and SIP have been approved in 2 separate motions.
Yes.
How many votes do we have? 3 out of 4? I don't think it's approved.
Yeah, it is.
Why did you,
You
why did you
abstained.
abstain?
Why?
Yeah,
I just want to make my voice heard that I really don't think this should be happening this way.
okay.
I don't have a problem with the project, and these guys know that. But
Yeah.
I just really, it just seems the order of this has not happened, you know. I get we don't have the right, I really do. I'm just ticked, I guess.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'll be very
Okay.
honest.
All right.
But it has passed.
Yes,
It's passed.
yes.
It has passed.
Thank you all, and we'll be back here tomorrow.
Yep, yep.
I will be online,
And
so.
many of us will
Same,
be.
same bad time, same bad channel.
Sounds good, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think
No,
we're
we have one more.
done. We have, where is it? Item 9 is a certified survey map to split the property at 1660 Nygaard Street.
I saw Brian was on, he is the developer on this, but, are you guys okay if I paraphrase this stuff? So, okay, so this essentially was a lot established, it's a general development plan, lot 18, that was established during the 51 West subdivision. It's roughly 5 acres plus or minus 4.9. And it is plan development with the MR-20 multifamily residential. You guys have reviewed and approved the SIP, all of that stuff, all of it is approved, and in fact, they've already started construction on lot 2, which is sectioning off this lot 2. And remember how, so at one of the previous meetings, I told you guys, I like to have my planners reports written about 2 weeks prior, get it sent to the developer so that they can have questions asked. I got it to those guys and they had replied to me with all of the stuff within a week, and so this particular plan board or planner's report has been amended to show the changes that they made. So that's why you'll kind of, if you look through, it kind of looked a little different, but that's why. So essentially they're taking, and I'll just paraphrase. So my recommendations were, the proposed lot will need to meet the minimum zoning requirements. The zoning is planned development using the base MR-24 multi-residential with the flexing for the planned development that was attached to the report. I ran the numbers like 3 weeks ago. It did look good. Proposed lot 1 lot has tons of frontage, doesn't have access. The proposed lot will need to include at minimum an access easement and a reference to a joint lot plan / parking agreement that should be filed with the CSM and recorded at the Register of Deeds. The CSM has been updated to show this joint driveway access on sheet 2 and note 8 and sheet 4. All easements will be granted by a separate instrument. So you can see the joint driveway. A lot of times with the joint driveways, they need an agreement in place for maintenance, snow removal, all of that fun stuff. So during the circulation of this, they found that a transformer had been placed like slightly outside of an easement. That just needed to be updated. That's lot number 3. Number 4, number 5 are my additional like approval by engineering, building inspection, fire inspection, any other city departments, and any other conditions identified by city staff and you folks here. Again, additional information, I just put dates in case you guys wanted to reference when stuff was approved, and then the additional flexes and the plan development. And I like to include those on the planner's report anyway so that we can find them like 5-10 years from now. So do you guys have any questions over this?
Well,
Do you want me to go back up? Sure.
Jordan.
So I just, with the joint driveway, that has nothing to do with us then? It's just, it doesn't count as a road, that's more of a driveway?
It is. It's actually like when you start looking at the development, and you can kind of see it here. Hang on. Well, no.
I can
it's on a different
understand
page,
that chart, yes.
Yeah, so like the apartments actually parallel the drive area with the parking.
Yes.
I believe that they're doing this more for, like, I think a financing reason, which is fine, but that's why you always want to have the stuff established and recorded well in advance. So again, if there ends up being an issue between the two properties or whatever, it is technically a civil matter, but like, let's try to fix the stuff before it starts with these, so.
And I
yeah.
guess that's just my question is
Yeah.
then, since that's a driveway and not city, that becomes a civil matter when it comes to who plows what and
Yeah.
who takes care of what, et cetera.
Yep, and as far as I know, that these are still the same developer owning both sides, and it's just a financing thing, but 30 years from now, who knows, right?
Of course, the developer is pretty much out of the picture once the two lots are sold.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
just more of an FYI, so,
I
yeah.
appreciate the understanding, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
So, yeah, that's basically what I was gonna ask as well, was, you
Someone
know,
trying to make a comment online?
it sounded like somebody was. Let's recognize whoever was trying to comment if you're
Yes.
I
there.
think it's Brian's. Brian, hang on.
This is Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Oh. Matt, can you hear us?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, all of these easements, I don't know if you included those in the package or not, but we have legal descriptions and maps for all of the easements, you know, that will be recorded, that outline all of the legal requirements and maintenance, liability, you know, everything. Attorney Richter is actually given us a draft of those so that to go along with these legal description and map exhibits. So all of that will be recorded. And so, like I say, I don't know if all of those exhibits were part of the package or not.
I believe they were. I think the packet was like 102 pages long. So the only thing I printed out was my planner's report, but yeah, I believe it was. It was a
Okay.
lot of pages. But you guys did a nice job, and that's why I amended my planner's report to just show that, so.
Yeah, our packet is 30 pages.
Is it
that
30?
we received.
Okay, because I was like, I know that I got all of that with the exhibits
you.
and everything, and I put it all in, and I do believe it might have been amended, but I apologize if go ahead.
And I know I'm still learning some things here. Does this change any of their wetland requirements or any landscaping requirements, trees?
All of that was done beforehand, like all of that was done and approved beforehand prior to this CSM, prior to, when, do you guys, well, I have it on the planner's report, but it's been approved for a while, and in fact, they're already starting construction, so it.
For sure. I wasn't sure with them
Yeah.
splitting the lot with that request, if that adds more to.
It looks like it's good. I checked, well, and we'll talk a little bit about it after, this, because it was one of them that had the flex on it, like the plan development, which allowed a higher amount of, density, but we checked it and it did look good, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, so,
The other thing that wasn't mentioned with this, and the CSM reflects it, is the half of Velcommon Way was vacated, and that was added to the property because of the reversion rights.
Yep.
So the way it stands now, when you were talking about those acreages, it's actually 5.1 something acres. I can't remember the full amount.
Plus or minus, but.
It's probably
Yeah.
in the legal
So
description.
originally there was a roadway platted on the south end of this lot, and what happens per state of Wisconsin law is when that's vacated, depending on how it was platted, each side goes to the adjacent landowner, and then that's what happened in this case. So the lot was split. It can depend on like varying on how it was platted. That could get really, like, I can get in the weeds with it, but we won't do that to you guys. So yeah.
it looks like this from what I'm looking at. So the northern half, I think, is what that is of Velcommon Way, is included in Lot 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of this thing.
Yes, the vacated, the part that reverted, yes.
Yep, or what was, yeah. The vacated road, which was Velcommon Way. Okay. So, yeah, and that's, yeah. Sort of parallel Jordan's question was, my question was, did your crystal ball for the future of any potential
There can,
something?
I don't think there can be anything done on this.
Okay.
I mean, like, it's max.
Yeah.
Like, it's done,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Mieski moves to approve. Bradford seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed? That is approved. And let me jump back to wherever the agenda is. I think that,
You have one more thing.
evidently we have one more thing.
Okay, this is more of just an FYI. So, do you mind if I,
Amendment to code.
yeah.
Okay. No, go
So,
ahead.
This is just an FYI. This is coming to you guys. I want to give you the heads up so you're not, you know. One of the things that I think we need to look at is changing the ordinance, as I've stated. But right now, you can see, so up on the board I have listed, those are all of our zoning codes, like all of them. We have how many residential zoning codes? It's kind of overkill. One of the things, sorry, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is changing the multifamily residential in 10 and 24. So part of the reason that I'm going to do this is so currently what we've been doing is we've had multifamily residential and then we've slapped on a plan development to increase the amount of units. I don't like doing that. I would like to have something like tangible. So when we say, okay, this, you know, this is what you can get on the lot, this is how it works. So I've gone through, kind of looked at some of the developments. So here is the one on Nygaard that we just reviewed and approved the CSM. This was approved. Per acreage, it was technically 40 units over what the minimum 24 was through a plan development. We've again got the Water Street one, which had an additional 12 units approved per development. And even the one at Nordic Ridge was an additional 2 units per plan development, which is, I want to say, like, you know, it's not a bad thing to have higher density residential in a smaller space as long as you can meet minimum parking requirements, minimum setback requirements, stormwater maintenance, all of that stuff. But I think we need to look at the properties rather than like, okay, 10, you know? So there's where we're going. This is where we're going with this. So what we're gonna do is, again, I'm looking at these, and incrementally what I'll be doing is we're gonna be looking at each zoning district, I'll be rewriting it, and then we'll be changing it. And one of the things that we're gonna move away from, because I don't like it, and if I assume you guys are probably in the same boat as me, is where you go into the multifamily residential for 24, and it's like 2 flats permitted, but you're using like residential 6. Like, why isn't the then zoned residential 6? Why is it zoned this? Unless there is an actual giant plan development where we're looking at like a cohesive development and not like these one-offs. So I am starting with this one so that we can kind of get this nailed down, because as I'm sure everybody here is aware, there will be more multifamily residential coming down the pike, especially with some of the changes, like some of the stuff you guys have approved. You guys know, you were here before I was, so you know what's coming.
It's my first day.
Well, we're in the same boat, but everybody else knows. So we're not gonna go too in the weeds with it. I want you to know I've started working on the drafts. I've sent it off to Rick. Rick's gonna be reviewing it, approving it, and you guys will be getting it. If you have questions, concerns, want to see something, feel free to reach out to me. If there is a zoning code you want me to look at before another district, please let me know. But incrementally, I think it'd be too much to go in and completely rewrite the zoning code all at once, but I would love to. But I don't think that that's realistic. So I'm gonna be doing these updates in the zoning code when I can, and this is where we're gonna start. And if you'd like to see one next after this, please let me know. So, and with that, there you go.
Okay.
Just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Yeah.
I think it's been anticipated for a while.
Yeah.
So, Okay, that said, would someone like to move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Jordan seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. We are adjourned. Good night, everybody.